You are Locked On Rockets Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh my goodness, there we are. Sorry, I had to leave the room real quick, but we're here. Oh, how did that just happen? What a wild, weird night at the Toyota Center as the Houston Rockets somehow find a way to survive a complete and total collapse of the fourth quarter and beat the best team in the NBA. I feel like I just lost 10 years off my life watching that fourth quarter tonight. What a freaking win for the Rockets, and we got a lot to get into. Of course, it being a big bounce back from the loss to the Detroit Pistons a couple of days ago. I did title the picture for the show as statement win, and yes, there still is a statement made by the Rockets, even if it wasn't the statement win I was expecting when I wrote that headline. Thinking it'd be a, much more comfortable win. I'll talk about some of the things that I love to see tonight. We will get into some of the things I also didn't love to see in the fourth quarter, and then keeping your focus for the next one. You have to keep your focus for the next one against this Cleveland team, because now Cleveland in their place is definitely going to want a little revenge for this thing tonight. It was just wet and wild and weird tonight at the Toyota Center. Tonight's episode, by the way, of this Locked On Rockets Postcast is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Well, first of all, hello and welcome again to the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Appreciate you guys stopping by tonight. If you are live, you're watching it later on. If you're listening to this on the Locked On Rockets audio feed, thank you very much. This show is live on YouTube after every single game wraps up, and you can come on and join us by hitting the subscribe button. I mean, have an 11-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and it evaporated like that. And they went completely ice cold in that fourth quarter. Unbelievable that you walk out of there with that victory. This is one of those games. Now for Cleveland, what's their cushion over there in the East? It's got to be decent. Their cushion, 6.5 games. If Cleveland somehow ended up getting into a dogfight for the number 1 seed, this would be a game they look back on and go, oh my God. I think about all the improbable things that have to happen there. The Rockets get a lead. Alperen Sengun knocks down 2 clutch free throws for a guy who, when it comes time to get clutch free throws, at times Alpy never seems like a guy that's going to knock him down, right? It's just absolutely wild what just happened. So that happens to Tari Eason losing his brain in the moment and running up on a defender, or excuse me, not a defender, a shooter, there in Garland as he comes down. And now look, I get the rule. I think the rule is fine. I personally, that call me old. I'm 34 years old. Call me old if you want. I hate that we over replay everything in the NBA now. And I'm a person that loves replay in sports. I feel like they over replay everything, and they are the NBA is soft. It's soft compared to how it used to be. We can just be honest with it. It's soft. They are a soft brand of a league now. That's okay. That they've turned into European soccer. They flip and flop all over the place. That was a clear foul. I don't want anything to come off as it was a clear foul. By the rule of the foul, it was a flagrant, and Tari Eason was deserving of that. But what are you doing, man? What are you doing for one of the Rockets' better defenders on the team? What are you doing? Why are you running? I know that you want to defend the shot or whatever. You're better off letting him take the shot. Just let him take it. And if he makes it, so what? It's tied. Because, you walk away there with a miracle. Somehow, the sports gods are on your side tonight, whatever it was. Or Darius Garland had got a bad night of sleep last night. Maybe he went out and had some Tex-Mex and it didn't settle with him all that well. And, he just was up there at the line, clenching his cheeks and couldn't shoot a free throw, whatever it might have been. This guy's a 90% free throw shooter on the season coming into tonight. 90% on the season. This is a guy that averages 21 points a game, shoots almost 50% from the field, 42 from 3, and he was making he's making 90, almost exactly 90% of his free throws, just a tick over 90% of his free throws this season. Total wise, coming into this one tonight, he had made 128 out of the 142 that he had taken on the season. And tonight, he forgot how to shoot free throws. He missed 5, and he missed 2 consecutive free throws there to give the Rockets the win. How? How does that happen? Sports sometimes are stupid, and sometimes instead of being on the bad side of it, you are on the right side of it. I mean, just unbelievable that you are able to pull that out of there like you did, thanks in large part to a choke. We watched, remember the old, who was it in the 90s that did it to the Rockets? Yeah, that's what happened. There was a choke job tonight at Toyota Center. Cleveland fans going to be kicking themselves left and right after that one. Unbelievable. There was a lot of stupidity in that fourth quarter. I listened to the Fred VanVleet interview on the TV broadcast right after the game, and he was like, man, that's the exact opposite of how you want to close out a game on either side tonight. And he's right. Look, the Rockets came into that quarter, and, they were just absolutely rolling. They took, again, an 11-point lead into that fourth. They had every reason to think, okay, well, we've got this one. And then they, held on to it there early in the quarter and then completely fell apart. I think they went into that third quarter up 94-83. They'd shot 50% from the field, 51% from the field in the game to that point, and 48 from 3. You know what the Rockets did in the fourth quarter? Shooting-wise, 5 of 22 and 2 of 7 from 3. And they missed half their free throws. But don't worry. Cleveland missed half their free throws too, thanks to Darius Garland. Insane. And he actually was a huge part of the reason why they're able to get back and tie the game. He had 8 points in the quarter. He knocked down 3 of his 5 shots of the field. He led their team in scoring in the quarter. And you walked out of there. You're going to walk out of there with what felt like an absolute loss. And I know that this is you're on a little bit of a high right now. That's good. You know that Ime Udoka is going to rip this team to shreds when it comes to the film session for this one. They got tomorrow off and Friday off before they see this Cleveland team again this weekend, this Saturday in Cleveland. I mean, he is going to absolutely tear them a new one. And I am fine with it because they should not have allowed that fourth quarter to happen the way that it happened. But guess what? It did. And they ended up walking out of there with it. I've only done this a few times. When you do a show in anything, it was on the radio forever. I've been doing these shows now here on this channel for creeping in on a year in April. It's very, very odd for me to go, man, I'm speechless based off of what I watched tonight. And I kind of felt that way, like, oh my goodness. I never envisioned going into that fourth quarter would come down to this scenario. And then to be the team that walked away from it. Because look, the Rockets in the fourth, and you kind of have seen this a couple times this season. We know the Rockets' limitations when it comes to offensive basketball, right? Yeah, they are. When they get bogged down, they get bogged down. Like Cleveland over there, if things get bad, things get bogged down, they can go give the ball to Garland. They can go give the ball to Mitchell. And one of those guys can go create some offense and sometimes pull them out of that. The Rockets don't have that guy consistently. For as great as Jalen Green's been this month, they don't have that guy consistently that does it every single time. Tonight it was Fred. Fred got them out of the funk. Fred did his thing, knocked down a bunch of threes, and carried this team basically to the ability to retake that lead. But I mean, tonight what killed this team was the zone. Cleveland's just sitting there running a zone, daring the Rockets to knock down shots from the outside. And then when they don't fall down, things go south quickly. And it happened to this basketball team tonight. But that is okay at the end of the day when you walk out of there with a victory. And they do just that over this Cleveland team again tonight by a final. Still didn't feel real. 109-108. I mentioned Fred. He was fantastic getting it going there late. Alperen Şengün had a pretty solid approach to the game tonight. He had some moments of he and but to me, the guy that kind of has really stepped up in a lot of ways with Jabari being out and has pushed himself into an even more important role is, and we've talked about him before, but Amen Thompson again tonight, 16 points, 16 rebounds. He was phenomenal. 9 of his rebounds on the offensive side. The Rockets tonight offensively, offensive rebounding wise, were great. They actually were just as great as Cleveland. Cleveland also had 20 offensive rebounds in the game, but 9 of them for Amen. 2 of them where am I? Steven Adams had 5. Credit to Steven Adams too. Steven Adams off the bench tonight. 11 rebounds in 18, almost 19 minutes in the game. Now, he is a force of nature out there. I am completely down with Steven Adams getting a contract for next season and not having to worry about that at some point. Let's go back out there and start somewhere. I don't know, but he's worth having it. I just wanted to point out those other guys and really Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson. I always call him Amen. Amen Thompson. I'm sorry to Amen Thompson. It's not Amen, it's Amen Thompson. It's going to be really interesting to see how Ime Udoka handles that when Jabari Smith comes back. He actually has a decision to make. A tough one. Because Amen Thompson has played his way into, honestly, being an every night starter for this basketball team. I don't know how you do it. And Jabari is a huge piece of this team too. Defensively, he's a magician out there as well, and they need him. So those are problems for down the road that the Rockets have to deal with. For now, they almost had to deal with the problem of losing a second consecutive game. And in bad fashion. I mean, look, if we played the other side of this thing here tonight, if we were coming on here doing a show after they found a way to lose that basketball game, you want to talk about being ticked off and down in the dumps. That would have been the mood of this show tonight. And it wouldn't have been this. The mood of this show is, I don't know about you guys. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty happy right now. I'm liking life. Not that I wasn't liking life before, but I'm really enjoying it based off of the end result. And again, Darius Garland, 90% free throw shooter on the season. He gets 3 of them, and Cleveland gets the ball back, and he misses the first 2. You can't write that script. You can't. And somehow he did it. Somehow he lost his ability to shoot the way that he has shot all season long from the charity stripe. Let's talk about the things that I loved in the basketball game tonight, and we will discuss it And just a brief moment here on the Locked On Rockets postcast after this crazy win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you love going to live sports events like I do, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy, one of my favorite memories is getting to a concert last year. The energy and excitement, they were just so unforgettable. Now, Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with the new feature, Gametime Picks. That's right, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. Locked On Rockets postcast after the awesome win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm your host, Michael Connor. Drinking from this massive jug of water again. Appreciate you guys stopping by live tonight. Appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. If you've not hit subscribe yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Smash it. Like the Rockets did a win tonight over Cleveland. Smash that subscribe button. Smash the like button, whatever. I just do whatever the YouTubers are saying these days. Appreciate you again stopping by. Don't forget that you can get this show in its audio version anywhere that you get your podcast. Go and search for Locked On Rockets. You'll get two shows there. This show and the Locked On Rockets podcast, which is a daily Rockets podcast hosted by the one and only Jackson Gatlin, who does a tremendous job covering your Rockets. Keeps up with the day-to-day, the grind of it, the trade deadline, which is nearing. Going to be interesting to see what happens with the Rockets when it comes to that. Tonight was another one of those nights that, to me, you look at this basketball team and you look at the offensive limitations that they do have, and you say, yeah, this is a night where you feel like deadline gets here, right kind of trade is available to you. Go out and make it. Get yourself a little bit more interesting on the offensive side of the basketball. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and here's what I really liked overall. This team is going to be carried in large part by what they do defensively. They are an absolute menace on the defensive side of the basketball. And tonight, they took a team that's averaging 122 a game, that had lost just 6 games out of the 42 they had played so far this season. And they kept them to 108. Again, were they a little bit lucky there when with the fact that Garland missed free throws? Absolutely. That's what basketball and sports are. There's always some luck involved in the scenarios here. They really forced Donovan Mitchell into some very difficult shots at times tonight. You know, the Rockets inside, I felt like had a true advantage all night long in terms of just brute force. You know, they're a far more after getting. I thought again on Monday, if you were with us or you watched the game at least against Detroit, I felt like the Rockets got pushed around on Monday and got outplayed physically, which is not something that they do very often. You know, Cleveland tonight ended up with more points in the paint than the Rockets by 6. But I just felt like the Rockets were a lot more physical than they were tonight. And I liked that. And I thought that was part of the story of keeping their big boys from like being crazy good in this one. You know, Garland still found his way to 26. Mitchell had 19, but wasn't very efficient. I felt like Jarrett Allen is terrified of Alperen Şengün. And I felt like they kind of set a physical tone, at least early. I also love the fact that Fred VanVleet had another game tonight that he has needed. You know, the Rockets have needed him to get out of this shooting funk that he has been in all season long, and it has just not happened. And he's had at least some games recently, where it's looked better. And then on top of that, in a clutch moment tonight, a couple of times, Fred VanVleet goes out and knocks down some of those big threes. The Rockets they desperately had to have it. They couldn't hit. You and I might have been able to go out there and knock down a shot in that fourth quarter better than what the Rockets were there for a minute. Was it 14-0 was the run? And if it wasn't for Fred, it was a wild play. Again, Amin Thompson, effort play, getting down there, getting the ball, throwing it out. Alpi makes a great effort play to save it back inbounds. And Fred VanVleet hoists up a long one, and it goes down. Those are a couple of the things that I loved. And I mentioned Amin Thompson. I love the effort out of Amin Thompson again tonight. He was tremendous. Every game that he continues to play like this, continues to play in that starting lineup, the more and more I think, how do you take him? You're going to get him starters minutes no matter where he's at, and maybe getting him back with Tari Eason will help. But Tari Eason and Cam Whitmore recently have built up a little bit of a good chemistry off the bench there for the Rockets as well. These are good problems to have. These are what I like to call rich people problems, because that's where the Rockets live now. They live in a world of having rich people problems. They've got depth. They've got youth. They've got athleticism. Now, where they're not rich again is that sometimes offensively things get bogged down and they're not very good. And they're not the world's greatest shooting team. There's a lot of things, again, that you could look at and say, don't love it about this team. That's okay. Tonight's not one of those nights overall when you walk away with a victory. I also did want to point out that up until towards the end of the game, I really enjoyed this game. This is a really fun game to watch tonight overall. I think if you're just somebody that loves basketball, and there might be somebody out there who's watching on League Pass, tonight was just fun. Tonight was two really great teams going back and forth, game of runs. One team throws a punch, the other one punches back. It gets a little, who doesn't love a little bit of wild to it? And what I really loved about it for the majority of the game, until it felt like the end, the refs were letting them play. There was not a lot of whistles being blown early in that basketball game, and I was completely fine. I'm always a little bit fine with it, unless they're out there, just completely overlooking guys getting just massacred in the paint or something as they go to the rim. But it just felt like tonight they allowed the game to kind of play. And then, towards the end, they got a little ticky-tacky and they blew that whistle a little bit more. But I guess it's expected, right? Referees tighten up as games move on. Let's take a look at what it's going to take for the Rockets to stay focused. What to expect Saturday. These two teams will face each other again on Saturday. We'll discuss it in just a brief moment right here after this on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. Oh, we're right back to it. Yes, we're right back to it here on the Locked On Rockets Postcast. I am your host, Michael Connor. Again, thanks for stopping by live here tonight. If you're new to our channel, hit the subscribe button. Smash it. I don't want you to actually smash your mouse or anything, but just click it lightly, gently. We're a gentle channel. We love you here. I don't know. We rant too. I would have ranted. I would have absolutely ranted and been ticked off tonight if the Rockets ended up losing that game tonight. And it's a battle for me. I know with you guys as well. I'm sure it is to an extent. I had an expectation for this team this season to take a step forward. I never had an expectation for them to be this good. To me, they're playing a little bit with house money. I think they're a year ahead of being top of the conference good to me. Like, I've made some of the comparisons in the past. They're a little bit like the 2015 Astros. I think everybody that year expected them to be better and were hopeful that they could be a playoff team. And then they were, and then they won in the playoffs, and then they almost won again. But they were young, they were fun, all these things. That's what this team is. They're young, they're fun, and I just think they're a year ahead of the curve of where I expected them to be. So I try to manage both. Like, can I crush them like they are a team full of 8 to 10-year veterans when things go poorly? No, I don't think that that's fair. I think that you can crush certain efforts in the game or whatnot, but I do remind myself constantly there are still growing pains with a team like this. There are still going to be moments where they go out and they do dumb stuff or they cost themselves victories. It happens when you're running out there with a roster that's filled with, I mean, look at the ages of this team. And that's part of what is so impressive of it, is that they're figuring this out. And this gets back to the same thing I always talk about, the culture that's been set and the buy-in. But this is a roster that has, let's just look at it real quick, age-wise. I mean, you have 20, 20, 21, 22, 22, 22, 23, 25. That's how far in I got before I got to above 25. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players between 28 and 29. And then you have 3 guys over 30. They're young. They're young, and their best players are young. And they're still allowed to make those mistakes because of that. And then I'm also allowed to, on nights like this, be super impressed that a lot of those young guys can deal with the pressure of these situations, can deal with the intensity of these situations, can deal with the adversity of going out there and screwing up, because they screwed up in the fourth quarter and they overcame all those adversities of the basketball game and they walked out of there with a victory. They did enough to win. Now, would you like to be a little bit more, hey, go ahead and cruise to a victory? Yes, that's for a different time. You always felt like this is going to be a contested matchup. And you got the better or the best record in the NBA tonight. And guess what? You get to see him again Saturday. Remaining focused for that, like I said earlier, I'm never too worried about focus necessarily, but the keys to it, you have to come in knowing that you're going to get a punch. Now, the Cavs will play a game Friday night ahead of the Rockets game. They're in Cleveland. They're going to be in Philadelphia Friday night, then fly home. So they're playing on a back-to-back. But knowing how this went tonight, and Cleveland's leaving town saying, we left one there. We left a win there in Houston. You know they are coming out with every intention of taking it to you Saturday night. I am so excited, so intrigued to see how this team responds to that punch that you know is coming Saturday night at the Quicken Loans Arena there in Cleveland. I think it is. Going to be a lot of fun. Don't forget, after that game ends on Saturday night, we'll be right here on this channel doing a Rockets Postcast once again live. After all the games end, we are here with you live. The spot to be. Make sure you come back and join us for that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday night. Stay warm. It's going to be cold again tonight. We will talk again after Rockets and Cavs Saturday night on the Locked On Rockets Post.